It's expedient for us to have a part two of the series on the mortgages in Nigeria, challenges, opportunities, and the pathway. Don't forget, last week we treated this exhaustively, attempted the definition on mortgage, and of course the types of mortgages in Nigeria. Today we're also going to reflect on a little bit of what we had last week for our teaming viewers that we had an opportunity to have it last week. And of course, we also delve into the analytical structures comparatively of the developed and the underdeveloped polities, and what lessons that the developing polities can learn or extract from the developed polities as regard mortgages schemes, and how it can help to better, accessibility in terms of those who want to make access on it. Especially as we look at the low-income earners, most especially even the first-time home buyers that have issues with, income and, of course, accessibility in the scheme as we have it. There are different constraints that we also will be looking at, basically to find solutions to ameliorate the plight that prospective home buyers could be having as regards the Nigerian experience. My name is Philip Omo-Gyukpon. Of course, all of this we'll discuss on Law and You. And I have my regular guest that started this series with me last week, Emmanuel Obakpolo, a legal practitioner. Big thanks for sustaining your presence.
It's a privilege being here. Good afternoon.
All right, let's quickly have a rough sketch or fetch on what mortgage is. And of course, delve into the constraints we may be having in Nigeria.
Mortgage, if we want to put it in a local parlance, is referred to as loan, where a person can make application to access a loan, and that person has what is called collateral to be qualified to get that loan or access that loan. That is just what mortgage is. Mortgage, there are two types of mortgage. Generally, we have the legal mortgage and the equitable mortgage. The legal mortgage confers title on the mortgagee. In this aspect now, is that the mortgage property that is to be used to assess that mortgage, that loan now, the title must be on the person who is making the assessment, who wants to get that loan. You don't go and borrow property and say, oh, this property, I want to borrow it from Mr. ABC to come and use it to access loan from XYZ institution. You don't do that. You must prove, you must show evidence that that property, that collateral you want to use, you have title on it. And that is the reason I think the law quickly makes provision for C of O.
Yeah.
So that by the time you apply for a C of O, some search will be conducted. You will bring evidence to show your title on that property. So it's a guarantee that whatever collateral Mr. A or a person is now using to access that loan, the person has title on that collateral.
All right, thank you. Well, basically, we are looking at how low-income earners can have access to these schemes in order for them to, be able to embark on, purchasing a house, for instance. We said it last week over the challenges that some could face in getting a house. Sometimes it takes them their entire lifetime, and some don't. Some end up not being able to acquire that. But we're looking at the involvement of the government, looking at the government schemes like the National Housing Fund managed by the Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria, and of course the Federal Housing Authority schemes that go into mortgages in order for low-income earners to really actualize this dream. But how effective do you see these government schemes? Do you see their schemes as really reaching to the low-income earners, or there could be hiccups that could also be, militating against the low-income earners from accessing these government schemes? What's your perspective?
Yes, I think when you look at the laws that regulate mortgage in Nigeria, the laws are perfect. Okay. But putting those laws into practice is where there are challenges. And that is the reason that government comes up with so many schemes. We have so many schemes in Nigeria, like the one just mentioned by you, as overseen or regulated by the Federal Mortgage Bank
of
an
Nigeria.
institution of the federal government. They end up as mere policies because a lot of political undertone or political play are involved. So by the time you come up with schemes, good schemes, that ordinarily ought to be for the low income earners or for the vulnerable, and you don't have specified and accurate data to know who in the first place are the low income earners. These low income earners, are they in categories? If they are category, amongst them, who is most vulnerable? This scheme that we have now, is it for category A or category B or category C, or for the most vulnerable? We have seen schemes in this country, good ideas, but they ended up becoming mere government policies, like I did say, because of the political undertone that are involved in it. Even in the impartation of some of those schemes, how they go to affect those persons that are deemed to have access, or that are deemed to be the real persons,
Beneficiaries.
that is the word, thank you, that these schemes are made for. But because of the politics, you find out that those persons don't even, one, they don't have orientation about it. Two, they cannot access it because of restraint or different category of restraints that the government has placed on it. Three, the conditions of accessibility to some of these schemes becomes so cumbersome, and as such, it discourages even those persons that ought to be the beneficiaries of these schemes. So by the time you put all this together, you discover that the schemes will amount to nothing. Like the Federal Mortgage Bank, for instance, here in Benin, how many persons know where we can cite where the Federal Mortgage Bank is? How many persons know? That is one. Two, how many persons even know that there is an institution called the Federal Mortgage Bank? We used to have it before, but at a time it appeared that it disappeared into the thin air, and nobody could know the accessibility.
It's still functional.
It is, yes. But you discover that the access to some mortgage, even with the Federal Mortgage Bank, is so cumbersome.
Yeah.
So because of that, people are not interested in anything mortgage.
Yes, but
mortgage is a business.
Let's give some credit to the government, my brother, because if we look at it, we see opportunities that the government have really given, opportunities that the government has given as regards, helping low-income earners, of course, helping workers that contribute about 2.5% or above, monthly basis to the scheme. And it's expected that maybe at a span of 10, 15, 30 years, they're able to recoup that money back that they've, saved, as a way of purchasing their dream house. But there seems to be this bureaupathology, the bottleneck system that is always associated with the government agencies, killing it. I think that's where you are also coming in with the policies of government not seeing the light of the day. But let's see how possible this bottleneck system, can be a little bit taken away, or if not eradicated, minimized to its barest, in order for these low-income earners to be able to get their savings, and embark on their dream house. Because most times they end up, saving towards it, and they're not able to access what they've saved from on the scheme.
You know what?
And some, to my mind, some will say, well, it's like the government bringing, fabulous promises, and at the end of the day, one is not able to even actualize a dime from what the scheme has saved for it. So what do you see as a way of making this accessible, and of course the bottleneck system, to be brought to its bearers? How can government do this?
One, government must be sincere with brilliant and wonderful ideas like the one we are discussing now. Most times, good ideas, wrong process. By the time you have a brilliant idea that you put on motion, and the process to assess that motion, that idea that is on motion, is a wrong one, what do you achieve? You may not achieve anything. So that's why we are saying that when government make laws to regulate a certain idea, properly put scheme, and government has the intention from the outset that the intention is for the impartation of the lower group of people.
Exactly.
Are you getting me? Government should also know that this category of persons, this is their level. With their level and understanding, how do we impact them with these schemes? Is for government to make the regulation and assessment of that scheme or that idea easier.
Because it seems to some that the beneficiaries are of the middle class and not even the masses,
yes,
or the low income earners.
Yes.
But again, another thing is how many workers are captured in that, because that of the government is only open to government workers. What about those who are not captured in the government, civil service, or public corporation? How can the government cater for such? Because they are also citizens of the country.
That is why I love this idea of the National Health Insurance Scheme. I, for one, thought that it was only for those who are privileged, the privileged one, to be in public service. That was what I thought initially. But when I made inquiries to understand the process to be a beneficiary of it, I was made to understand that
it's also open
to everybody,
non-government workers.
Yes, and the process is not cumbersome.
Oh, there are no bureau pathologists.
No, and the money to be paid to be a beneficiary, just little something, and that was how I went in to be a beneficiary.
You can imagine this is happening in Nigeria.
Yes. So if the government,
the country that you usually call a cruise country,
if the government can transform some of these schemes to be as easy as the National Health Insurance Scheme, I think the government will achieve the purpose for which it was created.
Okay, another aspect is fighting corruption, because anywhere that has to do with saving money that is meant for a particular bracket of workers, there's always this fear that at the end of about 10 years or 15 years, which government will have to also look into, because if you look at a 30-year plan, for instance, that seems too long for workers to wait before they get a benefit. And again, even if they get a benefit, how much is the money? Some, like at present, in our contemporary times, moments, you hardly can get a house with a 15 million naira amount. You hardly can get a house. So if you save through a 30-year plan or a 20-year plan, what could that money give to you in terms of your dream house? So I think these are areas that we should also look into.
Then if we were to consider that, which is appropriate, is still government policy. I can remember vividly, under the Alhaji Shehu Shagari epoch as the president of Nigeria, there was this building scheme, housing scheme rather, that was called low cost. I used to remember as a child, I was growing up.
Yeah.
Low cost. Low for low income earners. And at the end of the day, they were able to make that contribution. There is a limitation, a period for which you will make that contribution to be the owner of the house. Firstly,
okay, are beneficiaries entitled to occupying the place?
First.
Yes, while you are paying grant.
While you are doing the payment.
Exactly.
First, that was what happened then. So they occupied, they took possession of the housing scheme. You occupy, then you begin to make your little contributions. You discover at the end of the day, people were very happy. Those who never dreamt of owning house or houses were now landlords at the close of the day. That scheme survived. Not that there was no corruption. There was. But where you have accountability, accountability is the rod that checkmates corruption. And that was how, as at that time, there was accountability. And it did checkmate corruption. Though the military later came and said that they overthrew that government because of what? Corruption. And they came with their own style. We saw more corruption. So what I'm trying to say here is, when there is a scheme, the government should also ensure that there is a process of accountability, and you make it public.
Okay, so ideally, the mortgage schemes of the government is supposed to, make beneficiaries start enjoying the housing schemes, even while occupying the apartments, and they pay gradually to the government or by virtue of their contributions to the scheme. Yes. I think that's what we can say is an ideal mortgage program.
Yes.
For that. Okay.
We also saw it under the Ugbemudia regime, if my memory judges me correctly, what they call an EDPA. It was also a process like that.
Okay.
They took possession, and you begin to stipends from every month you pay. And today, many persons have seen themselves as successful workers upon retirement.
Exactly.
That this is what I achieved when I was in service. This is what I achieved when I was younger. I was vibrant. I was doing a particular job to sustain myself and my family. So the government needs to do a lot. And I tell you, I don't know the intent of the government with particular reference to the tax reform bill that just now the National Assembly has passed into law. Laws like that should also reflect mortgages, so that at the close of the day, you don't just tax the people only and you milk them dry, and then they themselves will not be beneficiaries of their labor. No, all of these are what I thought that law should capture. I've not been able to see the law just now. I've not been able to peruse it. If I'm opportune to peruse it, then maybe I'll have more things to say. Though some of us who will make little contribution, whether they will consider it, we do not know.
Okay.
So the process, when you come with brilliant ideas, the intention is more important than that idea. Because when the intention is honest, when the intention is truthful, and when the intention has who and who to capture in that idea, then I think you are on your way to success.
Okay.
But when the intention is different from what the scheme seems to achieve, there is a problem.
Okay, let's look at the way forward in having an expanded dragnet, that will capture those who are not even government workers, like the artisans, for instance, who daily, embark on. You spoke about some part of it last week, like the Onidara contribution. Can't government, just like you also made mention of the National Health Insurance Scheme, can't government also focus or have an expanded scheme that will capture all of these groups that are not government workers?
Government can, but the doctrine of corruption is the problem. And that's why I told you, I did say that the rod that checkmates corruption is accountability. Unfortunately, in this part of the world, nobody is accountable to any person. Once you get into government office, public office, you see it as your own, the period while you are in that office. No, the answer is a no. There ought to be accountability, and transparency must be the watchword of all those who occupy public office. So by the time there is transparency, transparency breeds what? Honesty. Transparency, honesty. So when there is honesty, what happens? You achieve the purpose for which that scheme
is meant
for. So I think government needs to do more. One, government should be transparent, government should be honest, and government should have a valid and legal intention on every program it has for our people. And that takes us back to having the data of the people. Like as we are today in Nigeria, how many are Nigerians? We keep having estimated population. Oh, some will tell you about 250 million. Some will tell you about 210 million. I don't think in this time and season we need to be talking about.
Okay.
We should be certain on what we are doing. And that is where we need data to capture every Nigerian, both home and abroad, so that when we have this data, our government comes up with a scheme, they will now know what that scheme is meant for.
All
for instance, like let me deviate a little. The student loan. How many students are able to access it? We keep reading on papers and hearing over the news that so and so number are able to achieve this. See, you make publication.
Okay.
If you are transparent,
we will continue to interrogate the process. In case you're just watching, it's Law and You, and we are about mortgages in Nigeria, challenges, opportunities, and the path forward. And I've been speaking with Emmanuel Obakwalo, who has been, expressing views in this regard in terms of how we can bring solutions to the problems. Let's look at a comparative, insight between the developed polities and the developing. Now, I understand that there are a lot of benefits that have accrued, from the schemes from developed polities. What do you see as lessons that can be learned from developing nations like Nigeria in Africa? As what can be copied from the developed in terms of their schemes for mortgage in order to bring about an optimal performance for beneficiaries?
There is a wide gulf between the developed and the developing, particularly African countries and our leadership.
Okay.
Because corruption is the bane of Africa challenges today. That is on the one hand. Then two, the developed nations have what they call social responsibilities. Even private businesses create room for social responsibilities. They carry out that function. Private, not public now. They carry out. But how many private companies in Nigeria carry out social responsibility? Instead, we will see even the purported oil companies in the Niger Delta, they come up with the idea of divide and rule. Create more problems in the region. Then, while the people are busy fighting themselves, they are enjoying what Mother Nature has given to them.
Okay.
That's what we see. So there's no social responsibility. Everybody is just doing his own, and the principle of greed is also affecting everything. So there's a wide gulf.
Okay, just as we tell to an end, let's quickly let you know that this program is brought to you courtesy of Noah Attorneys, a firm of legal practitioners based in Benin City, Nigeria. And the numbers are riding on the screen for you to make your contributions, ask your questions, and of course, whatever bothers you, you can also interrogate the program via the numbers on the screen. And that could also help to pan out a new episode for us to look into how we can, you know, clear gray areas as regards the law affecting you, you know, as a citizenry. But well, what are your last words on this episode?
I think the government need to do a lot. Firstly, in course of this program, we'll be able to mention some of them. The government must be transparent in all its programs. Then the government should also have a proper data and who they think should any scheme or program they come up with, particularly with reference to mortgage, should impact on. Because the truth is this, the people don't even understand what mortgage is. But what the people understand just now is loan. And that's why you see them patronize all those local loan vendors.
Yeah.
Because they believe that, one, it's easier to access, another thing. The institutions, like the Federal Mortgage Bank, they have a lot to do, a lot of reforms. Reforms now, not reforms that is necessary to law or regulations, no, but reforms that has to do with impartation of those they think should be captured in every program, particularly with mortgage.
Okay.
Because mortgage is a good business if the government does well. If the government rather do well with it, then I think Nigerians are ready to connect themselves.
Thank you so much, Emmanuel Obakbalo, for your dexterity and mastery on the topic. Law on the topic that has to do with, you know, mortgages in Nigeria, and we just hope that you will avail us an opportunity to enjoy your great knowledge and mastery in subsequent editions. Well, this is where we call it a wrap. Do well to join us same time next week as we take you on a ride on a new episode. Don't forget, all we do here is to make sure that we impact you positively, and the topic we could be rolling out next week could bring about a very, very beautiful moment where you can also benefit largely on the program Law and You. My name is Philip Omo Gyukbon. We'll see you same time next week. Bye for now.